18 months ago, I met two sets of developers who'd embarked on very risky and very challenging developments.
If we were only selling at 150, then we'd be very upset.
How upset?
I'll be really upset.
Taylor's idea of managing is a float-through, a quick, serene visit.
Excuse me, I know all the paperwork for this, so don't even go there, OK?
They've decided that listed buildings were the way to make their fortune, but they've massively underestimated just how difficult they can be. But did this put them off developing? Certainly not. You're 18 months in, several £1 million in debt, and you haven't actually had any profit out yet.
No.
Scary. Every novice developer dreams of making a fast buck. And a year and a half ago, I met two such developers who were convinced they could do just that. The problem with this game, though, is there's no such thing as a quick fix.
Dave Hearn and Nick Holmes in Dunstable, 30 miles north of London, and Tammy and Mark Howard in Harloxton, Lincolnshire, have both taken on difficult Grade 2 listed buildings that most people would run a mile from. Listed buildings can make tricky developments. There's loads of red tape and your budget can spiral. So it's more important than ever to know what you're getting yourself into. But Mark and Tammy Howard simply don't.
What we know about listed buildings, we could write on the back of a postage stamp.
Yeah. So, I guess we're going to learn the hard way.
But that could be a lot harder than Mark and Tammy think. They've just spent £205,000 on this, an old Victorian bakehouse in Harloxton. It needs a huge amount of work doing to it. It needs replumbing and rewiring, and the first floor is collapsing, so many of the timbers need replacing. Worst of all, there's an old bakery with an industrial oven so enormous that it takes up this entire part of the building. It's in a bit of a state, this house, though.
I think that's being quite complimentary.
Yes. Why did you buy it?
Mark doesn't know.
Oh, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
But, no, every time I'm away from the property, I'm very excited about it. I can visualise what it's going to be like. Every time I come back to the property, I have buyer's remorse. I'm panicking. I'm thinking, what the hell have we done? So time will tell whether this was a good decision or not.
There's no going back now, so Mark and Tammy need to make the most of their investment, and they're going to need their wits about them to turn this huge old rambling house into an appealing family home. This is a two-storey semi-detached property. Upstairs there are 5 bedrooms and 1 family bathroom. Downstairs the layout is very sprawling, with a lounge leading through to a kitchen, dining room, utility and WC. And across the hall there's the old bakery with its huge industrial oven that takes up a whole room by itself. Mark and Tammy want to put a new kitchen in the bakery and demolish the entire oven building to make way for an adjoining dining area. And then knock the old kitchen through to the lounge to create one large living room. But they have no idea if the planning department at the local council will let them carry out any of their plans. Now this is the heart of it, isn't it? So
Yep.
the old ovens,
Yep.
and then this is where the flour was?
Yeah, so they used to take the flour upstairs, store it upstairs, and then as they needed it, just drop it through the trapdoor in here.
Cool, knead it up, pop it in. Gosh, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully it's not too fantastic, though, because we want to get rid of that. So again, with the planning, we need permission to remove it.
Absolutely.
So your enthusiasm for it worries me
Doesn't
slightly.
help.
Yeah. If you can't move the oven, I mean, you're pretty scuppered, aren't you?
It's critical. It's the biggest gamble we've got with the whole thing.
When you bought the property, you presumed you could just move it, did you?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we walked in and it wasn't great. I mean, we just walked in and thought, well, that can go, and carried on.
I can't see how we're going to sell the place with a huge, great oven, because I can't see that's on the top of people's shopping lists. I'd like a big baker's oven in my kitchen.
It is an old bakehouse, and the oven is integral to its historic importance. I think there is a good chance you'll have to keep it, though.
That's not good news.
Yeah, that's not good news.
Mark and Tammy have taken a massive gamble by not doing enough research on this property, And they don't seem to have a clue about the costs involved either.
How much is it going to cost, do you reckon?
Well, the budget that we put together before we understood the proper planning rules was 80,000, and I really want to keep to the 80 as much as I can.
Looking at this, I would say it's a £120,000 job.
Funnily enough, everyone else has seen it said that too.
I think Mark and Tammy are setting themselves a near-on impossible task. They bought the house for £205,000, have a budget of £80,000, and are hoping to sell for £375,000 to clear a £90,000 gross profit, which I think is a little ambitious. And that's surprising, as Mark and Tammy aren't entirely new to property developing, as although they've never done a renovation before, they've actually made a whopping £400,000 from new build developments over the last 3 years. So this seems like a big risk as their next development.
What I'm intrigued about is why did you decide to stop doing new builds and renovate this listed house?
We thought, well, if we try to go into a renovation, we can turn the properties over a lot quicker, and in theory, over the same timeline, we should potentially be making the same money. If we're doing everything right, we're turning the property over every 4 or 5 months, hopefully, and in theory, the stress should be less, in theory, and the gain should be about the same.
I think it's pretty optimistic to think that you can turn around properties so easily, find them and do them and sell them. You've got a lot of anomalies in there. So how do you guys feel at the moment?
Scared,
nervous. We know, we've got a big job on, and a lot of things have to go in our favour to make it happen in the time frame and budget, etc.
Hey, get out while the going's good.
Do you want to buy it?
No thanks, wouldn't touch it with bars on.
Joking aside, although the property has potential, Mark and Tammy couldn't have got it more wrong if they think this renovation will be easier than a new build. 150 miles away in Dunstable, business partners Nick Holmes and Dave Hearn are also taking a massive gamble. Only this time we're not talking about one listed property, but an entire terrace of 6 period houses they're hoping to sell on for over £1 million. A huge development. Each house has to be separately renovated, and while the sheer scale of this development would put off many people, Dave's given up his job as an industrial designer to do the project management, and Nick's taking time out from his flooring company to do the paperwork. But they do seem to have done their homework.
We knew that the building was listed when we bought it, and we also recognised that a lot of the features that are here we were going to restore using traditional techniques.
You can't just steam ahead and do what you would normally do in a normal construction site.
But this is still a high-risk development, because while the whole terrace is large, the individual houses are so small it won't be easy to make them appealing. What's more, Nick and Dave have borrowed over £500,000 to fund the development. Their plan is to get one house finished and turned into a show home within 3 months, because they have to sell the other 5 off plan, or they'll be crippled by the £1,000 a week their huge loan is costing.
This can make or break us, really. It's that crucial to us that we get a good job done, isn't it?
We've never even considered failing. Failing is not an option.
No.
Dave and Nick bought the property for £554,000. They've got £285,000 including costs to renovate the whole terrace, and they're hoping they'll get £1,020,000 from selling all 6, making a gross profit of £181,000. It's a truly colossal project to take on. If they get it wrong on one house, they're potentially getting it wrong on all 6. In Harloxton, Mark and Tammy's rather less than thorough research means they could have a serious problem with their giant old oven. If the listings officer wants them to keep it, I honestly believe they could be kissing goodbye to any profit at all. Mark and Tammy Howard are hoping to make £90,000 in just 4 months out of this listed Victorian bakehouse in Harloxton. But if the Conservation Department want them to keep the huge old industrial oven that takes up this entire room at the back of the property, they could actually lose money. With the Conservation Officer on his way, it's D-Day for this development.
One of the things that we'd like to do is to remove this oven and try and open up the entire kitchen.
It would be a shame if we lost everything which related to the bakery element of it, though. One of the ideas that we might have might be to use this whole frontage somewhere within your revised scheme. I'm not too concerned about what happens behind. I don't think that's of particular significance.
So if we moved it from here and used it, you know, in a wall somewhere, you'd be happy with that? It doesn't have to stay there?
I think we'll have to devise somewhere to put it, which is convenient for you.
That's great.
Yeah, that is brilliant
really
news.
good news.
That is a big weight off our shoulders, I tell you.
Yeah.
This certainly is good news. But the reality is a whole month's gone by and Mark and Tammy are only now sending off their application and can do very little on site until they receive formal listed building consent, which isn't guaranteed. That means a further 6 weeks of frustrating inactivity. Mark's plan for a stress-free 4-month turnaround is looking less and less likely. In Dunstable, Dave and Nick's preparation is paying off. They've taken on this entire terrace of 6 separate properties. And with planning permission in place, it looks as if things are going great guns. That's just as well as they've got ambitious plans to smash the local ceiling price and sell each property for £170,000 by adding a 2-storey extension on the back of each one. Each of the houses has just 1 bedroom upstairs and a lounge leading to a small kitchen and even smaller bathroom downstairs. By adding the extension, Dave and Nick want to create a 2nd bedroom cum study on the ground floor, but also plan to sacrifice the bathroom down here for a WC to make way for a bigger kitchen. And while they are planning to add a bathroom in the extension upstairs, anyone staying downstairs will have to walk through the master bedroom to use the only bathroom in the house. So this is going to be the kitchen in here, yeah?
Yep. So the cloakroom is going in this corner.
Okay.
If I mark it.
Why don't you make this? If you put, is there any reason why you can't pull this out to here and make it kind of there and then you'd have, if you had it along here, you'd have enough room to make that into a wet room, so you'd have a downstairs shower room come downstairs loo, which would mean that 2nd bedroom would then be able to use this as a shower room.
What do you see as a wet room? Is that,
wet
do you
room.
think that's a fully tiled room?
Yeah, which
with a shower on the wall?
Yeah, it means that you don't have to have the shower tray. That's all I see it as.
We thought that the 2nd bedroom study would be primarily a study or a work from home environment, and in those circumstances, provided we've got the downstairs toilet and sink, use your guests or your friends that are staying over using your shower room, your ensuite. It wouldn't actually present that greater problem.
But I think to get the best price for this development, Dave and Nick should forget the study idea and market each house with a 2nd bedroom complete with a wet room. One of the problems you've got is your resale that you're looking at is £170 a house, and having looked around the area, for a 2-bedroom house around here, you can get a quite nice one for 150. So you are looking at getting quite a lot more.
If we were only selling at 150, then we'd be very upset.
How upset?
I'd be really upset.
I think it would be a really good idea for you at this stage to A, go and talk to some agents, and B, go and look at some wet rooms.
Yeah. I'm not convinced that if we went to an agent and said we're going to put a wet room in, they'd actually have the first idea what we're really talking about. I think
so you've been breaking the trend around here, which is no bad thing, is it?
No.
But ultimately, with all ideas, you should always test it out for yourself. And that's what I suggested Dave should do.
Do you know what a wet room is?
No.
Yeah.
You know what a wet room is?
Oh, no, I ain't got a clue.
You don't think it would be just a London-style apartment that would have something like a wet room?
Yeah, I think it might be a good selling point for a house.
Okay.
It's a new moving forward sort of idea, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
No, I reckon it's a pretty cool idea.
Okay.
It's everything in one, isn't it?
I think Dunstable is ready.
Definite winner with the people we've spoken to. Good feedback. Definitely going to do it.
I think this is a real breakthrough for Dave and Nick. And being the first to break the mould in Dunstable might get them the extra £20,000 per property they're so desperate for. Never ones to hang around, just a week later the wet room is already taking shape. And the extensions are not far behind, because with such huge mortgage repayments, they can't afford not to get this development done on time. In Harloxton, Mark and Tammy are 9 weeks in, and with their plans finally approved, the hard graft can begin. But Mark's only ever done new build before, and isn't really prepared for the extra work that goes into a listed development. The Conservation Department want them to reuse the original bricks from the oven housing to build the new dining area extension. Painstakingly cleaning up over 5,000 bricks one by one ends up adding another 2 weeks to a schedule that's already looking dangerously out of control.
The new build, there's a plan, and you can work pretty much to the plan, and there's not going to be any major surprises. The renovation, every time we come, there's another surprise, there's another problem to get round. We're running out of time, and it looks like we're going to go over budget. It's no longer fun, it's a real worry.
To add to Mark's problems, he's finding it increasingly difficult to run his financial services business and the site at the same time. More often than not, Tammy stays at home. And even when Mark does manage a flying visit to the property, he finds it difficult to get off the phone.
Right, 10 minutes then, you're going to call me back, yeah? In 10 minutes.
A good project manager keeps the development moving forward and also maintains control of the costs, but this budget is starting to slip. They're already dangerously close to spending the £50,400 they've allowed for labour and materials, and there's absolutely no leeway in the rest of the budget. There's a mere £5,300 for the kitchen and bathrooms, £5,400 for all the electrics and plumbing, and £4,100 for the decoration. There's £6,800 for the garden, and with fees of £8,000, their total budget is £80,000. To make matters worse, there are conservation issues they've overlooked. On top of the requirement to clean up and reuse the thousands of original bricks in the dining area extension, they need a damp-proof course downstairs. But they must preserve all the old flagstones, which involves numbering each one and laying them back down in exactly the same order. It's a huge amount of work, but I can't help thinking this project should be progressing quicker than it is. Four months in, when the project is meant to be finished, they're miles off. Oh, I can't believe you finally got that extension up.
Yeah. Actually, when they started, it went up really quickly. It was just all the faffing about
A bit
initially.
before.
It makes a big difference in it, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It really opens the thing up.
What a great kitchen breakfast room.
Really
That's
good.
going to really make it. And your bread oven.
They're in.
See, I have to say, I would be tempted to make a hole there and make a little box behind so that you can use it.
Yeah, something else we've still got to think of getting done. So it's not that I don't like the idea. It's just adding something else to the list of things.
Yeah. Are you slightly reaching the end of your tether with this development now? And do you just want it to be
absolutely
finished?
cannot wait to flip and get this place sold and out of here, I've got to tell you. In my head, it was only going to take 4 months. Unfortunately, now it's way past the 4-month stage. I'm starting to lose a bit of interest in it.
Building sites do have a tendency to do this. They get to about halfway through and then the heels start to drag, and I know that this is going to be really difficult for you to do, and that's to get down here every day for a few weeks. But that's easier said than done if you've got a full-time job.
Yeah.
Well, I could come down every day for a few weeks, but I don't know how that's going to make any difference.
I think if you're here and you're working on site, it just tends to push things along. If you're coming down and you're cleaning up and you're really...
Okay, that's not going to happen.
Not that kind of coming down.
No, sorry. No, you don't think that we have stress enough in our daily lives? We have to come down every day.
And that's why I said I think it might...
Yeah, so Tony's idea of managing is a float-through, a quick, serene visit.
Excuse me, I do all the paperwork for this, so don't even go there, OK? You have to ask me how much the budget is every day, so don't even go there. No.
That's not your thing.
No, that's not my thing.
No, I think I can understand that. You've got other stuff on, but I'm just saying that is one way that you can get it to move forward, is by actually being here. Good project management is absolutely crucial. And while Tammy is clearly horrified by the idea of working on site, someone is going to have to take control of this development if it isn't going to drag on for many more months. It takes a couple of weeks, but eventually Tammy realises how important it is for her to take over. The question is, does Tammy have the project management skills to really get this site moving?
What do you think your task will be for this week, then? To do by Friday. Right, how far do you think you'll get done with that? Give me some definitives.
Okay.
So what are you on this week?
Keeping Pete and Nick going.
Well, Pete said he'll hopefully finish that today, so let's push him to do that.
Okay.
Okay?
No problem. Thank you.
Why is that window not in? Please make sure he gets this wall done by today, because otherwise he's going to be off the job, OK? Seriously.
It's very late in the day, but it's great to see things are really starting to move now this project is finally being managed well. In contrast, the schedule in Dunstable is starting to slip.
We've stood still practically on this particular house for the last 3 weeks because we've been waiting for a lintel to turn up. Without the lintel, we can't put the gable on the wall. Without the gable in the wall, we can't finish the roof. I very much want to get this unit done. I want it finished. I want it as a show house.
Nick and Dave are paying £1,000 a week in interest to finance the development, so it's crucial they get the show home up and running as soon as possible so they can recoup some cash by selling the other properties off plan. But the lintel is not the only problem. They don't feel confident enough to design the show home themselves, and they're getting increasingly worried about how it will look.
It's very important to us that the show house is 120% correct. You know, the attention to design detail has to be perfect.
With their limited space, this is going to be a real challenge. And what Dave and Nick need is a crash course in show home design. And there are definite do's and don'ts, so I'm taking them to a show house for these apartments nearby that are also aimed squarely at the young professional market. Decor-wise, I'd never advise going this bold, but the living area, second bedroom and kitchen have almost identical dimensions to Nick and Dave's. And I think there are some good layout lessons to be learned here. This is clearly quite wild and wacky in here. But I think there are things that are really worth taking away from this show house, and that's that they've defined the areas of eating and sitting quite clearly.
I think the nice thing about this room, it does actually reflect what we could do in our almshouses.
But I think this kitchen is an example of a little tad of overdressing.
What do you think of these worktops, Sarah?
This high shine on a laminate worktop has a tendency to scratch, it just doesn't last.
We have a really big problem speccing any of the worktops. We're looking at around about £1,000 a kitchen to put granite worktops in our kitchens.
I think you could reduce that by a good £500, £600, £700. Oak block worktop, it's going to be, we're going to be saving, in the 6 flats,
that's right,
the 6 houses, so if you save 500 quid, that's £3 grand. There is one other major point, and that's that you are meant to have finished the show house by now, and you're not, are you? How far off are you?
We're about 4 weeks behind where we really wanted to be.
Are you definitely going to have that show house finished in 4 weeks?
4 weeks we'll definitely have it finished. Definite.
I hope they're right, because with their £1,000 a week interest repayments, they can't really afford for their schedule to slip anymore.
Dave Hearn and Nick Holmes in Dunstable and Mark and Tammy Howard in Harloxton are both at the end of hugely risky developments. 6 months ago, when Mark and Tammy fell in love with this Victorian bakehouse in Harloxton, they knew next to nothing about listed buildings and had little idea of the difficulties they could entail, which makes the transformation even more remarkable.
The once dilapidated reception room is now a cosy family sitting room. And next door, what used to be the kitchen is a private study.
As they also have a separate dining room, it means there are quite enough reception rooms downstairs to keep even a large family happy. Taking out the large baker's oven means there's also a fantastic kitchen diner to congregate in.
And Tammy's choice of a simple traditional style is perfect for the property.
Hi, how are you? Wow, what a transformation. And when you think that massive industrial bread oven was in this space, it was really worth taking out.
It was, yeah.
So what did you end up doing inside the original ovens?
We've just put little sort of cubby holes in so people can put candles, spices.
I've got to say, I'm glad you did something with them, but I do think that it could have been a bit more inspiring.
Upstairs has the ideal layout for a large family with a good balance of 6 bedrooms to 3 bathrooms.
This house can now be classed as a luxury family home, which will do nothing but improve their resale figure. And the neutral decor makes each room feel light and spacious, as well as giving the potential buyers a blank canvas to work with. Transforming the attic into a private master bedroom and ensuite has made the most of the space up here and will certainly add to the appeal, but quality like this doesn't come cheap. Now, you were hoping to spend £80,000 on this development. How much did you end up spending?
124.
124.
I was gutted. I was really determined to come in on budget to prove you wrong, but unfortunately...
Sorry.
Yeah, it didn't work.
God, how annoying for
you.
you.
It was.
God, can you imagine what it's like being married to me? I think it's still a great achievement to bring this project in at just over £120,000, but a rather over-optimistic initial budget means they overspent in just about every area. Labour and materials rose from £50,400 to £82,600. The kitchen and bathrooms from £5,300 to £10,300. The electrics and plumbing from £5,400 to £5,600, and the decorating from £4,100 to £8,000. Mark and Tammy did cut back their spending to £2,000 on the garden, but with their fees, including mortgage payments, rising to £15,500, their total spend is £124,000.
Now, you were originally hoping to sell the house for $375,000, weren't you?
Yeah.
What do you think it would be worth now?
Over 400, but how much over, I don't know.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
The new extension on the back really blends in very well.
Great feature ovens. Master bedroom suites. I like the way it's elevated from the rest of the house.
I would value this property at £415,000.
I would value this house at £415,000.
I would value this property at £425,000.
We have had 3 agents round the property, and they have given valuations of $415,000, $415,000 and $425,000.
That's excellent.
That is very good.
That's worthwhile.
Because that's massively over what you were expecting.
If Mark and Tammy sell for the average of the 3 valuations at £418,000, they'll make an amazing £89,000 gross profit. All they need now is to find someone willing to buy the property.
Straight into the kitchen. Great for parties.
Mm-hmm.
You cook in there, we in here.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's a nice garden here.
Yeah, good size,
Decent
manageable.
size. I love this. You could lie in the bath and watch the stars. I think the house is great, and I think it's got a lot of character for a period home, and I'd be seriously thinking of putting an offer in.
I think this is a really big success story in terms of development, and if you carried on like this, you'd be millionaires.
That'd be nice.
Do you think we'd survive, though, if we carried on doing that?
No.
No.
Really? So you couldn't do 2 of these a year and stay alive?
Yeah, well, we could, couldn't we?
1 week after putting the old bakehouse on the market, Mark and Tammy accept a fantastic offer of £428,000, clearing a £99,000 gross profit. Mark's all for ploughing this money straight back into another development. The question is, will Tammy ever let him? In Dunstable, Dave and Nick are a month behind schedule with their terrace of 6 houses. They still have 5 properties to complete, but the all-important show home is up and running and is spot on for their target market of young professionals. They've really taken on board our conversation about what makes a successful show house, and downstairs have cleverly made this small room feel much bigger, with well-defined living and dining areas. The kitchen is small but beautifully formed, and it was the right decision to go for the oak block worktops, which are both affordable and stylish. And I'm thrilled that they finally went with a wet room idea. It has a great contemporary feel and should be a real selling point. Although in the ground floor extension, cramming in a desk makes it feel more of a study than a real second bedroom. Overall, though, this is contemporary design out of the top drawer and is exactly what the market needs. But the question is, how much did it all end up costing?
The overspend is around £6,500, of which £2,500 is putting the wet room in. I think the wet room is a brilliant idea. I think the wet room definitely makes these houses more saleable.
But have they done enough to break through the ceiling price and reach the £170,000 target they were hoping for?
Because you can see everything in place with the dining area and the sofa, it works really well.
Really good quality kitchen with the solid oak worktops.
And it's a fantastic use of the space. Brilliant idea.
You've also got the downstairs wet room. If someone else is coming home, wants a quick shower, that's ideal.
I would value this property at £180,000.
I would value this property at £180,000.
I would value this property at £180,000.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, we're well pleased with that.
Dave and Nick bought the entire terrace for £554,000. They should end up spending £324,000 on the whole development and bring in £1,080,000 from selling the 6 houses, which would give them a giant £202,000 profit.
We're pleased. We're very pleased. When we've sold one, we're going to be even happy.
Dave and Nick get off to a great start, immediately selling 5 houses. But then their luck runs out. The last house just won't shift. Until they sell it, they haven't actually made a penny of profit after all that hard work. But that doesn't seem to be dampening their spirits.
This year, we've really got a lot of work going. You know, this year, things should really come good for us.
Mark and Tammy Howard and Dave Hearn and Nick Holmes have both come to the end of very risky developments, which they were hoping would make them big bucks. For Mark and Tammy, it's been a stressful 8 months, but all their hard work has been rewarded with a £99,000 gross profit from their Harloxton development. They've moved straight on to renovating this Grade 2 listed Georgian farmhouse in Lincolnshire, but this is not a development. For the first time in 8 years, they've decided to invest their money into creating their very own family home.
Well, the first thing we're going to do is sort the main house out so we can at least live in some sort of normality.
Once it's done, and it's done to our standard and the way we want it, it will be amazing because, you know, to get mature gardens and a river frontage and the land that we've got, you're not going to get that very easily elsewhere.
But developing is not entirely a thing of the past, because with the farmhouse come 2 listed barns that are just ripe for development. Once the family home is finished next year, the barns will be their next project.
You're very brave taking on another listed house, especially after your experiences at Harloxton.
Brave or very stupid? I don't...
Well, you said it.
Yes.
Not that stupid. Their huge profit from the sale of their Harloxton development has really acted as a springboard to bigger and better things. In Dunstable, making a profit out of the almshouses has not been quite so easy.
Dave Hearn and Nick Holmes have sold 5 of their 6 almshouses, but a year on, they still haven't sold the final one. As it stands, they're making a £26,000 loss on the project. But that hasn't stopped them buying development after development after development.
Dave and Nick have bought not 1, not 2, but 3 new sites.
Looks like if the door...
They've been borrowing money and buying up land at breakneck speed. And when they finally tot up just how many individual units they'll soon be building, it's an impressive, if not intimidating, prospect.
7 and 7.
Yeah.
It's 14.
Yeah.
14 and 6.
Yeah.
Is 20.
Yeah.
And 9 is 29.
29 then. 29 it is. It's obviously daunting, but at the end of the day, that's what we've scheduled to do, so, you know, we're going to get on and do it.
This time round, there's not a listed building in sight. In fact, their experience with the almshouses seemed to have put them off renovations altogether. But never ones to give up, now they're convinced new builds are the way forward.
Renovations are bloody hard work. With new builds, and you don't have to be there all day, every day.
We can be out looking for new bits of land and, you know, making our business go forward with new projects.
In the town of Ampthill, 5 miles from Dunstable, they've already got a site that's well underway. This development of 7 one-bed flats is aimed squarely at the young professional market. They've borrowed just shy of £750,000 for this project. They've bought the land for £420,000, anticipate spending £310,000 on the build and a further £70,000 on fees and interest. They hope to sell the flats for £965,000, making £165,000 gross profit. Just like in Dunstable, they want to set up a show home and sell as many of the flats off plan as possible.
Probably just have to spend, money on the blinds and some carpet, so £1,500, something like that. Should get this fitted out.
So lights. I'll be surprised if we're up at sort of 2.5 to 3.
You've only got £1,000 budget.
Joking aside, Dave and Nick are seriously stretching themselves with their finances because this isn't the only development they're borrowing on. 4 miles away in the village of Westerning, Dave and Nick are planning to knock down this old bungalow and bus garage in order to build 9 brand new flats. They're borrowing a further £900,000 to do it. If they pull it off, it will give them a £350,000 gross profit. But when they borrowed the money to buy the land, these boys took a real gamble.
Potentially, our biggest problem here is under the ground here, there's diesel tanks. Now, we know that they're foam-filled, but we don't know until we start digging whether it's going to give us a problem or not.
And we don't know if there's any more contamination around it, do we? No. That's the biggest thing.
Many other developers would not have taken on such a risky site, but you've got to admire Dave and Nick's courage. They understand that often the bigger risk, the bigger the potential profit. And they're certainly going all out for profit. Back at Ampthill, their profit depends on getting the show flat absolutely right and selling every one of the 7 flats. With so much riding on it, choosing the right unit to use as the show home is crucial. And they decide to have a chat with a local estate agent for some advice.
We need one with the best views out the window, the best lighted flats. I think the back top one.
Back top.
On the first floor, the show flat would have better light and better views, but without time on their side, Dave and Nick decide to go against the agent's advice.
So we're going to run with our original plan of setting up the front house as a show flat.
Dave and Nick decide to fit out the ground floor flat because it's the closest to being finished, and with all the spending they're doing, they need a quick injection of cash. 5 miles down the road in Barton-le-Clay, they're going to spend a further £600,000 developing this piece of land. They intend to build 6 terrace cottages. Incredibly, they're hoping to make an astronomical £465,000 gross profit.
The profit that we should return ourselves on this really should set a good grounding for the future and make us, essentially cash rich.
This kind of property developing is not for the faint-hearted. If you take what they spent on this site and add it to what they're spending on Westerning and the development in Ampthill, they're investing a phenomenal £2.23 million. But if they get what they're hoping for in the way of sales, they could stand to make just short of £1 million in gross profit. This is serious money, but every single unsold unit means a huge dent in that profit. So it's crucial they get off to a good start with the Ampthill development. 2 weeks later, the show flat there is finished. They've clearly learnt a lot from the Dunstable almshouses about the way to market their developments.
it is very important to have that show house. People really cannot go into a building and visualise how a space is going to work unless you give them good, clear indicators.
It's a lovely flat, and what's particularly impressive about it is it's actually incredibly small in here, isn't it? And by designating the spaces that, as you have, you've made it feel a lot bigger.
Throughout the whole flat, the neutral decor and strategically placed mirrors all add to the illusion of space.
The kitchen actually looks really quite a good size, doesn't it? Whilst the actual materials you've used in here aren't the most expensive, it's very well executed and well put together. Really nice kitchen.
There's no doubt that one of Dave and Nick's real strengths is their ability to deliver a great end product.
Have you had any interest in any of the flats yet? I mean, they're really nice.
Well, we've sold 3 units.
Are they actually sold?
We've taken deposits on 2.
So 2 exchanged? And...
No, not exchanged. We've taken holding deposits.
It's a good start, but by now Dave and Nick should know that a property isn't sold until the ink is dry on the contract. A lesson from their Dunstable development.
Yeah, that's been a very tough project there.
Tough to sell?
Yeah. Tough to sell. It's difficult.
Falling out of the chain, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you had a lot of sales that fell through?
Yeah.
As it stands at the moment, the Dunstable Almshouses, as a project independently, are standing at a £26,000 loss. You've still got a house to sell, and when that sells, there's money in that. But at the moment, you haven't actually made any money from the project. So it's quite a scary position. You're running, you're not walking on this career path, aren't you? You must be a lot in debt if you've got that much property on.
My wife, who does our accounts for us now, rang our accountant to check that she got the decimal point in the correct place.
For the debt?
For the debt, yeah.
So we're talking millions here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a lot.
So you're 18 months in, several £1 million in debt, and you haven't actually had any profit out yet.
No.
Scary.
But next year will be a good year, won't it?
Yeah. Fingers crossed. With their massive debt, Dave and Nick are in an extremely vulnerable position. But ultimately, it's their willingness to take that risk that could make them a huge profit. If they can hold their nerve and luck is on their side, they could be well on their way to making their first million.